Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Ticket to Anywhere podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Trizzy.
And I'm Leah, aka LA in Flight. And today we had a very special guest, Ben of Ben's Big Deal. Deals on essentially talks about credit cards and points and miles.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the industry doesn't like the word travel hacking, right?
No.
But we're going to throw that in there anyway. And it ended up being a conversation heavy on credit cards,
Yeah.
which I think is great because there are people who are always looking for new ones. There are people who and they're advanced, and then there are newbies, right, who are trying to get into the travel credit card space and learn how to travel for cheap or free or on points.
Mm-hmm. I think
So,
my boundary will
mhm.
not be as insane as Ben is. Ben got 35 credit cards.
Yeah, I think everyone will find this really helpful no matter what level you're at. We talk about how Ben got started, how the industry has changed, right?
Mm-hmm.
What cards are doing these days, especially through the pandemic, and how a lot of them pivoted. He gives a lot of great advice, very simplified for those looking for multiple cards. And for those who are trying to get started, probably, one big piece of advice you should remember those types of tips here. And yeah, this was a longer episode than usual, but because it was so helpful.
A lot of information. Get your notepads out. Hit the record button, save this episode down so you can hear it over and over again because it is a lot of knowledge. We
Hmm.
appreciate having Ben on with all
Yeah.
that
And don't
goody.
forget to bring your drink of choice, aka a coffee or tea only,
Mm-hmm.
while you're taking notes.
That's right. And I have in my hydro flask today is a simple peach oolong tea from Percolate.
Yum. And Percolate's is it a local business or are they a chain?
You know what? They have two locations or three locations now.
In LA,
So
right?
in within LA, yeah.
Okay. But I don't know if they're outside of LA. I'm not sure.
That I'm not sure either. I don't think
Okay.
so. I don't think so.
Okay. Mine is the espresso. Oh my goodness, it's from a bean box that my friend ordered off Amazon as a part of a gift box from me. And then of course my Califia Farms cinnamon roll oat milk.
Mm.
Why is my drink always so complicated? I always make my own lattes. I'd say 70% of the time
Yeah.
I'm making my own lattes at home.
That's
Usually
awesome.
features some type of milk, non-dairy creamer, and then it will feature my espresso of the day.
Let's just look out for Leah's Cafe coming up soon in
Yeah.
the years.
We can host Ben's live course in it that he's coming out with.
That is right.
Yeah.
Let's cheers to another great episode.
Salud.
This is Leah and Trizzy, and we are two voices, two views, and two ways to adventure from anywhere.
We prioritize travel in our lives, and we both travel very differently.
Every other Wednesday, we drop episodes featuring the coolest travelers around the globe, local business owners, community episodes from you, and of course, us, your resident travel lovers.
This is Ticket to Anywhere podcast. Watch us on YouTube or anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Safety Wing is the world's first international travel medical insurance developed to meet the needs of entrepreneurs and remote workers traveling or living abroad worldwide. The Safety Wing Nomad Insurance includes both travel and travel medical insurance, which includes coverage for any travel delays, lost checked bags, emergency response, and natural disasters, plus coverage and access to qualified global network of hospitals and doctors for unexpected medical problems and accidents, and any emergency medical evacuations. You can sign up for Nomad Insurance even if your trip is already happening, or sign up in advance by selecting a future start date. For only $42 per 4 weeks, you can be covered under Safety Wing and its Nomad Insurance. Click the link in our description for more info and to sign up. Safe travels!
All right, we're here with Ben of Ben's Big Deal. Welcome, Ben. Thank you so much for being here. Something our audience always loves hearing about is points and
Ooh.
miles and travel hacking. And this is how we met you, was in a clubhouse room with the points guy. I think last year. So we're super happy that we now follow along your knowledge on Instagram, and we're able to have you on Ticket to Anywhere. So welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm so excited to have be here. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Leah, for having me. It's a lifelong dream to be able to not only be a participant in the Points and Miles world, but also be a contributor and be a content creator. So it's always fun and always great to share. And I think that's something that is a unique thread in our community. And being part of this community now, I would say probably for the last 7 or 8 years, it is a wonderful community. When we were still meeting in person, and that's how we got started. And then all along came Facebook groups, and then Instagram, and then now we got
Mhm.
Discord groups and Patreon all over the place. Now, it's like I just try to struggle to keep up with all the different ways and channels. Started. Give you a little background. When I got started, it was like 2014, and I was just trying to find a way to get my wife and my daughters to go on a vacation, and I was trying to figure out how I can do maybe 1 or 2 trips. I was hoping to do at least one domestic locally and then one international trip. And I was like, is there a way to be able to do this without having to fork over a ton of cash? Because I just didn't have much, cash left over at the end of the month, like a lot of
Mhm.
people, to put away into these kind of trips. And the kind of trips I used to take my wife on is kind of interesting. When I first took my wife, see, this is the thing a lot of people don't understand. I'm a business traveler for 5 years before I even got involved in this. And many people go, "Oh, you must be a business traveler. You got a ton of points. You got a ton of miles." This is a challenge which a lot of people don't understand. And actually, to this day, a lot of my clients that come to me are frequent flyers and frequent travelers, and they come to me for help because they know one hotel program, they know one airline program, and then the time comes where they need to fly somewhere, and that hotel program maybe doesn't have the availability or the locations that they
Mhm.
want to be at. That one airline program doesn't have availability, or they don't have enough of those points because now they have to spread it out between 3 people or 4 people.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of challenges from that perspective because they don't really know how to leverage it. And that was really where it was. Like after 5 years of traveling, I didn't have elite status with anyone. I was kind of like the free agent. I chose whatever was the lowest cost flight, the lowest cost hotel. And I remember taking my wife to my hotel of choice, which was La Quinta Inns, which is now part of Wyndham, but at that time they were not. So if anybody's ever been to La Quinta, it's like a 2-star hotel
Yeah.
brand, okay? And I remember telling my wife, "Oh yeah, I got free nights, and we're gonna go." And so we went to San Diego, but we didn't even go to San Diego proper. This is like on the hillside, Hotel Circle Avenue. If anyone's ever been there in San Diego, it's like there's like I think the movie theater is like the biggest like landmark nearby. And I remember we were sleeping. When you look at the view, it's like the parking lot, and you're on the ground floor. There's only 2 floors, and you're on the ground floor, and the sheets, you can see through them because they're not very thick. My wife woke up that next morning and said to me, "Is this your idea of vacation?" I said, "Don't wait, don't worry, it gets better. We're gonna go to have breakfast." And we go to the breakfast, and it was like cold muffins and bagels. It was like a truck side road stand. And she told me after we were done that night, she's like, if this is your idea of a vacation, I think I'd rather just stay at home.
Mm, wow, she got you
Oh.
there.
But she was being honest, and I said to myself, okay, I was blinded that I had a free night, and I got blinded that I don't think most people would consider it a vacation,
Mhm.
because it's like you're doing a road trip and you're doing it overnight as opposed to really being a vacation. And I realized like not all hotels are created equal. There's more than just flying Southwest, although Southwest is great, but if it doesn't help you if you want to go internationally. And so
Yeah.
all those kind of things came to play. That kind of gave me my enlightenment moment when I walked into I got a new job, and my boss said the first thing you need to do. This is after like a new job, and my job said, yeah, go get a lounge access, go get lounge pass, and pick an airline and pick a hotel. And I had never had done that, and I remember walking into the lounge. And I didn't even know they existed. First of all, to be perfectly honest, I keep in mind I fly to LAX for 5 years. I did not know a lounge even existed.
Oh.
This is like I'm like so. If you feel like all these people talking about lounging. I mean, that was me, and I was a business traveler, but I didn't even know they existed. And then so in 2014, I walk into the lounge, because like, just go find that place called the Admirals Club. So I walk in. I chose American because I want to fly internationally, and they're part of this alliance called One World. I'm like, oh, okay, I can fly internationally. So I walk in, and I was talking to the lady at the front desk. They call them they call them AA Angels now. So I walk up and I asked her. I said, how do I get lounge access? She says, well, it's $450. And I look over to my left of her, and there was this big, huge banner sign that says, sign up for the city credit card and earn like 100,000 points. And I pointed at her and I said, does that give me lounge access too? And she's like, yeah, that's the other way. A lot of people walk in with that. And I said, and how much is that? It says 450. Isn't that the same price as the lounge access? She says, yes, it is. But if I get approved, I get 100,000 points. She says, yeah. I go, well, I'll take the 100,000 points. So right then and there, I signed up for the card. I wouldn't do that today. I would go through a referral link, or something like that. But at the time, I knew no clue. And that was my very first card. And what really got me wasn't just the lounge access, but it was a free bag that I got. Because I always had to pay for bags every time.
A free bag.
So, I got a free bag, and then they said, oh, if you got other people with you, then it's a free bag for them too. Everyone gets a free bag. Like, that pays for itself right there. I'm like, I'm flying all the time. I was flying all the time and having to pay a free bag, paying for a bag every single time, because I'm like team check-in here. So
yeah. Okay, you still have that card?
A variation. So the thing is now,
okay.
at the time, Citi did not have a limit on how many times you can get the card. So there was a time where I got the card and I got the bonus, and then a year passed, and then I would cancel it. Now, by the way, it's very difficult to cancel a Citi card. Not because they give you a hard time. I'm gonna tell you why. They do a good job retaining you as a customer. Let's say you go for a whole year.
Yeah.
Let's say you go for a whole year. Oh, I want to cancel. Oh, no. We're going to give you $100 statement credit. Okay, another year. I'm going to cancel the card. Oh, no. Go spend $100. 5 transactions. We'll give you another $100. So they keep on renewing all the time. So yeah, I do have many Citi cards. Maybe not the original, but I had many Citi cards. But now they actually have a rule. It's like 48 months. You got to wait 48 months before you get a bonus again.
Oh, okay. I have one. My first Citi card was a Citi card, and I've had it for 13 years, and I just switched it to a card. It was literally giving me nothing, Ben. It was a line of credit, and that was it. And I never used it because that is the card I ruined my credit on. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to fix myself. And now I've been fixed for about 4 years. But they recently upped my credit because they saw that I was like, oh, this girl's opening American Express and Capital One over here. Like, she's probably in good standing. So they doubled my credit line. I still don't use it. And they and then I switched it over to one that will actually give me some rewards, because I'm like, this card is actually useless to me. And I'm like thinking, Citi, you're lucky I don't close this card. Just because, personally, I had heard don't close cards, but I also don't have a ton of credit cards. So I don't know, maybe you can expand more on what I just told you.
I'll expand it because I had the similar experience. So the month before I got involved in travel points and miles, the credit card companies don't like the word hacking, because sometimes the word hacking to them implies that you're doing something that's not above board. But I don't think there's nothing wrong with applying for multiple cards over time. As long as you're responsible with it, you're not using a ton of the credit and carrying a bunch for interest. I think that's perfectly fine with it. I think they're fine with it as well. And I would say that the biggest mistake I made early on, right, was like literally the month before, when I'm like, okay, I'm ready to apply. I decided I'm going to close all the accounts that were not being in use and they were old.
Oh my goodness.
So if you guys do not know, and I'm sure you folks know, but maybe your audience is not aware, that age of history is super important. And so by closing out your oldest account, it shows that all that history had, you don't have it anymore if you close it out. So I closed out. So it took me a while to kind of get back. Now, it's not a major part. It's like maybe 10% of your credit score. But then again, when you're trying to grow your credit, every 10% helps, So, and especially on a card, that many of these cards, by the way, are no annual fee cards. So it wasn't like it hurt me to have it. But what I think I did wrong was I pulled my credit report up and I went through the whole thing and I said, oh, I'm not using this. Why do I need it? And not understanding what I was reading. I think that's one of the biggest lessons I had to learn early
Mhm.
on was how to read my credit report and understand what it meant.
Yep. That's really good. Do you have any tips for anyone who doesn't know how to read a credit report, or one where they can find it, reputable sources to find a credit report? Any tips for someone who's never read it, and like maybe, yeah, what you would suggest when looking over your credit report?
Yeah, this is the thing. There are a couple free, like if you want to look at your report, you can go to free annual credit. I'm sorry, annual credit report. .com, and you can be able to get a free copy of each one of them. What it doesn't show you, however, is your score. So I find that if you want to look at the score and look at the report, there are some paid service. I don't make anything on it, but
Mhm.
there's one called Identity IQ with the letter IQ, and they pay a monthly fee. It's usually we usually recommend it for people who are trying to in the process of rebuilding their credit, and they want to see what action they do and how that affects their score. And they can see all three credit agencies, their report as well as their score concurrently. I think it's like $30 a month. But when you're in that rebuilding phase, I think that's important to
Yep.
understand. Your habits end up, reflecting your score. So I think those are one of the things that you could be able to do up front. And by reading the report, I think one of the most important things I think that people need to understand is that you want to keep your utilization low. Two of the
Yep.
biggest things that affect your credit is how much of the credit they giving you, how much are you using? And then the next part of it, are you making your payments in a timely manner? If you're making them on time and you're on time, those two things account for like 65% of your score.
Mm.
So if you can do those two things right, it will help. And a lot of people make their payments on time, but then they don't pay enough, and so they carry a balance. And if your balance goes above 30%, so let's say you have a $10,000 balance and you're carrying 4,000,
Mhm.
that doesn't reflect kindly. If you can drop that below that 30% down to 3 or below 3, that will
Mhm.
actually improve your score. And then, or let's say this, I know some folks who do a balance transfer, and then because they offer 0%, so you're transferring the balance. But this is the thing. Let's say you transfer it to the card and it has a lower limit, or it doesn't have as high limit as what you once had. Your utilization may go up just because you maybe used to have a $10,000 credit limit, and maybe you're at 40, that 4,000 balance, but now you move it to a new card where you only have a $5,000 credit limit, and you carried over the four. Now it looks like you're 80% now, even though it's the
Yeah.
same amount, but your credit limit is lower. So I always say that if they offer to for free to increase your credit limit, that's a good thing. A lot of people actually don't know how to answer that question. Like, should I take it? They're going to give me more credit. Should I take it? I know a lot of people who actually say no to it. And I'm
Right.
like, unless they're pulling your credit for some reason, if they're just going to give you a higher limit, that you
Yeah.
should take it because that'll
Well,
help you with your utilization.
City with me just did it. They're like, by the way, we doubled your credit limit. And I think it's because I've been in really good standing for like 3, 4 years now. And they're like, we want her back.
That's
So
awesome.
but it's interesting because I mean, I know this is not the good way to think, but like we said, I was just rebuilding my credit 4 or 5 years ago. But for me, I'm like, I'm not closing my oldest card. One, not only are you not supposed to, but two, I'm like, this is an extra line of credit. If anything ever hits the fan, then I have this like emergency to fall on. I know that's not how we're supposed to look at credit, but I was like, just in case. But I'm good. I put like my $15 a month class pass on it every month on auto pay, and and then that's it. So I also had heard that if you're really trying to like rebuild, that even if you can get your credit utilization under 10%, that's better than even under 30.
Yes. 30, 20, 10. I mean, you're
Yeah.
down to like 1%. I mean, the more available credit, like sometimes I look at like a lot of the banks, I'll have multiple cards and I say to myself, yeah, I'm trying to get to 250,000 with each bank. Like I'm trying to have enough credit line with them that
Wow.
I'm at 250. Like that's like a goal of mine because it doesn't mean that you have to go use it. It means that they
Mm-hmm.
trust you. To me, a credit line, all a credit line is this. Do they trust you with their money?
Mm.
And if you do, they give you more of it. So to me, the when you apply for a card and they say yes, that means they trust you. You apply for another card and they say yes, they trust you a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
what happens is what you were saying earlier. When you apply for American Express, that's a tier one company. And let's say you apply for Chase, that's a tier one company. Guess what? Citi and Capital One are tier two. There's a lot of reasons why they're tier two, by the way. There's a lot of reasons. I won't get into all the reasons, but they
Wait,
are.
tell us like one, and what do you mean by that? Like they're the bench players, like they're the B team, you know? Like what do you mean by
Yeah,
that?
exactly.
Okay,
I will
okay.
say Amex and Chase are at the top, and then right below that is Citi and Capital One. There's no question. You can go ask any credit expert.
Capital too, especially with their Venture X card.
I
Not
know.
going
I
to
Yeah,
just
they're,
got a
they're moving. They're moving up. They're still not tier one. I mean, let's just look at this. If you're tier one, let's just look at this. If you're a tier one credit, right? And I think we
Mhm.
all know what a tier one credit score is, right? If you're a tier one credit score, are you you are probably a little more affluent. You are probably making your payments on time. You're probably not ever paying interest,
Mhm.
generally speaking, right? Because you
Mhm.
can be able to pay it off, right? If you're a tier one. So American Express had a card for many years, a platinum card, a gold card, those colored cards were what they call a charge card. And a charge card says this: you have no limit. We have no credit limit on you.
Mhm.
You can
Mhm.
charge as much as you want, but you know what? You have to pay at the end of the month. Now only a tier one could do that.
Right.
I'm
Well,
not a
actually,
tier one. How can I even do that? I would charge and have to carry the balance, right?
right.
I mean, so the fact that Amex even has that even offered
Yep.
means that they're going for a certain marketplace. Now today they have this thing called pay over time, so it becomes like a
Yeah.
credit card now. So they've made the charge card into a credit card. I wouldn't say Chase is at that level, but Chase makes it really easy. I think this is the thing. If you had just had two brands between Chase and Amex, I think you pretty much have them all. Now, if you want to diversify and go get Citi and go play around with Capital One, you definitely can. Which I have all four of them, by the way. And I do most of my banking with Citi for many years, so I know how I just know their nuances. But if I've gone a credit card before from Citi and then went to go try to buy a gift card. And then, man, they wouldn't even let me buy a $500 gift card. I mean, they'll give me a fraud warning every single time. Then I got to
Oh
do the
my god.
whole song and dance with them. And by the way, I'm not the only one who's ever had that experience with Citi. You know, and
Huh.
sometimes Citi, you try to transfer the points, everyone transferred immediately. Oh yeah, Citi 2 days sometimes, one
Oh
day
my
before the
gosh.
points
Wow.
transfer over. And for Capital One, many times Capital One, before Venture X came out, if your credit was too good, they didn't want you. You wouldn't get approved if your credit was too good, because they made money from people who paid interest on their cards, and
Mm.
the
Mhm.
Capital the Capital One clientele was in the rebuilding stage. They were in the 550s to the 650s. They would pay interest. They would carry a balance. And Capital One liked that. And they said, well, you're a tier one. You weren't. This whole idea of going to Venture X and going premium and doing all that kind of stuff, this is new uncharted territory for them.
For
They've
them?
never gone after that market. They're going
I
after it
know.
right now. And I'm going to be there to take advantage of it. I
Yeah.
love it. I mean, I love that they have one-to-one transfer partners. But there's been talks, like the Capital One Lounge in DFW is like the best right now.
That's a tiny reason why I got the card.
But 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 let's look at the economics of it. And I have a card. My wife has a card. My daughter has a card. We all actually have one of those cards. I'm trying to hit minimum spend on the second one right now. Um, I just want to share with you. They charge the least amount of money
Mhm.
for their premium card. They charge $395. Chase Sapphire Reserve charges $550. Amex Platinum charges $695. They charge nearly half of what Amex charges,
Yeah.
and they have a better lounge. Now, I don't know how long they're going to be able to keep that up. If you
Mhm.
charge half the you have charge half the card rate that the other guy does across the street, I don't know how long they're going to keep that up, or is that going to stunt them from actually having many lounges, or if it's only going to be,
Right.
the Dallas one. So we'll see.
So you know what's interesting, Ben? I actually don't have Chase anymore because Chase, I correct myself from a few minutes ago. Chase is actually where I ruined my credit 5 years
Mm,
ago.
mm,
So just to be safe, and even though it's been about 4 years, I'm like, I'm gonna be safe, and I haven't applied for one Chase card in 4.5 years. So I was like, okay, I'll try my luck with Amex, got approved. Try my luck with Capital One, got approved. So I was like, okay, I think I'm pretty good now. My credit's pretty good. But I'm like, I'm just gonna hold off on Chase a little bit longer. But I mean, I have the MX Gold. I don't have the Platinum because I cannot afford it. The Capital One, like Venture X, yeah, that's like my premium for now. But I'm also curious because you have so much knowledge on all the cards and their benefits, and I know I don't. Trizzy, do you have any of these?
Not yet.
Okay, and I feel like I've been trying to convince Trizzy for various reasons, Ben, like whenever I get a card. So maybe like I feel like Trizzy, you should be like, all right, are you looking for anything in particular? I want Ben to give you a recommendation or try to convince you to get one of these premium cards, you know?
Basically, the two tier ones and the Capital One Venture X. Those are the three top players that I've been trying to do a lot of research on,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel as though I've done all my research, but I'm still here debating, can
Mm-hmm.
I sustain the annual fees for each of
Mm.
these cards?
I think it's easy because I had the same challenge, but I'm going to share with you what I think is the secret. In year one of the card, they offer you a ridiculous many times sign up bonus, which to me um, overcomes the annual fee, at least in year one. Like I always tell you, what I always tell my clients is look at 1 year at a time. Justify each year if you want to renew it, because there's two things that come into play. Number one is the sign up bonuses in the first year. So I don't think you can ever lose in the first year of getting the card, and you get all the benefits of first year. When you come in a year two, you can reevaluate now. Well, there's no sign up bonus. Are the benefits of the card worth it? Are the spending, are the bonus categories that I would get for that particular spend category? Am I even spending on it? Those type of things. Am I using the insurances? Am I using the status? Did I use all those things? Did any of them stand out that I want to keep the card again? And once you come to that realization, whether you do or you don't, then you still have a second chance because of something called a retention offer. So you call them up, you tell them, look, let me talk to someone over there. I'm doing this analysis right now. Now, the pandemic's been a great excuse, by the way, the last 2 years, especially you got a travel card. They actually started changing a lot of the travel cards into like lifestyle cards for like restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
like the Chase
Mm-hmm.
Sapphire Reserve. They're like nobody's traveling, so let's give them their $300 annual credit via restaurants, which everybody was
Wow.
using for
Mm-hmm.
restaurants.
Yeah.
There's like
So like
Ubers too.
yeah, and so it paid for itself. They started doing DoorDash credits,
Yeah. Yep.
everything, shopping credits.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think once you look at a card and go, look at every card and go, are there things here that I can be able to use? Are there things that I already use? Are there things that I could be able to, like for example, let's say Amex has a lot of what they call Amex offers.
Yeah.
And they'll say, okay, if you spend this dollar amount, I'll tell you that I had recently a friend of mine who was going to go on a cruise, and I said, "Oh, which cruise line are you going to?" I was just at a party, and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to Royal Caribbean," and I said, "Oh, I was happening to look through one of my Royal Caribbean things, and it said if you spend $1,000 on a Royal Caribbean, they were going to give me back $300."
Oh
Okay,
wow.
now, so
Wow.
I said to my friend, "Hey, if I put on my card and 1,000, and then you only pay me back 900, would that be worthwhile to you?" He says, "Yeah, sure, man. You can save me $100."
Nice.
So he let me put my card, his
Nice.
cruise, my card. He paid me back $900, and I got still $300 back in a rebate. So I actually made $200 on that thing. But I,
Nice.
but I happen to know that particular offer was in it. I'm like, I remember. I thought. And by the way, if you don't have max rewards, you can look at card pointers or max rewards. You can add in all your uh, those offers, and it'll remind you like when you're in
Oh.
store, oh, you could use that. So there's a lot of things like that too. The TPG, the points guy, has an app that does something similar to that as well. So anyway, I'm just using an example, but I think there's a lot of different cards. Like if you get the platinum, if you get the gold, like for example, the Amex Gold,
Mm-hmm. I love the gold. I
four
have.
times for dining, four
Oh
times
yeah.
for groceries. Now let's look at this. It's 25,000 points. Okay, so they give you the 70,000, 80,000, whatever, how many points they give you for the sign bonus. Let's just say we
Mm-hmm.
bank that. That's already $1,000 right there. But let's just look at the annual, what you spend on. It says you can spend four times. I'm sorry, for every dollar you spend at grocery stores or dining, you get
Mm-hmm.
four times the points. Most people get one time the point.
Yeah.
Some people get 1.5 times. So to get four times means this: if I spend 25,000, I would get 100,000 extra points. In addition to the 100,000, I would get, or the 70,000, 75,000 I get when I signed up. So now that's 175,000. But then you come back to me and go, Ben, I don't spend $2,000 a month at a grocery store. I don't spend 2,000 a month eating out. There's no way. It's crazy. I said, okay, anything in the grocery store. So if I walk in the grocery store, they have a gift card section.
Yeah.
in addition to whatever groceries you buy. And then let's just say you go, oh, do you ever use Amazon? Like I just, I buy Amazon all the stuff. By the way, I can walk in there and they have an Amazon gift card section. And I'm sorry, not gift card section, and Amazon's one of them. So if I buy a $500 Amazon gift card, I would get 4 times the points because I bought it in a grocery store, not because I bought
Oh,
groceries, but I
interesting.
bought it
Yeah.
in a grocery store. Because of that, Ilkota's grocery store, I get 4 times. I just basically got 4 times the points now on my Amazon purchase,
Hmm.
which without even having an Amazon credit card.
Yep.
Nice.
I love that.
I can
So
do it for
even
Best Buy too, and all these other stores that they have stores
okay.
there.
Even when I reload all of my, I'm a big coffee drinker, right? I have loyalty to almost every, I'm on the rewards program for every big coffee chain in the West Coast. Starbucks, Pete's, Coffee Bean, and I reload my gift cards on there, and that reloading your gift card counts as a food/restaurant. So
Wow.
I'm reloading, $50 a week every other week, and that counts. So I'm like, it's the small things too. Some certain bars count, certain cafes count, but in general, I think the Amex Gold earning power, the point earning power, is very strong. That's what I've heard, Ben.
Yeah, I mean Chase doesn't really have anything close to it. The closest thing is Chase's Chase Sapphire Reserve. It gets 3 times, and if you have the old defunct City Prestige, then you get 5 times for dining. But unless you have the City Prestige, I wouldn't keep a $450 card just for the 5 times on dining. It's just not. That's not a. But I think the Gold is a solid daily card for eating and for the grocery store. And then I think you need to also have one card for everything else. So let's say you're not eating out. Let's say you're not at a grocery store. What
Hmm.
what other cards is there? So you want to be able to earn at least, I'd say 2 points on everything else. And
Okay.
so Citi has a card called the Double Cash. Capital One has their Capital Venture X that fulfills the need. And then on the Amex side, they actually have a business card called the Business Blue Plus, and that one has 2 times Amex points for everything. So basically, I label the card. I actually have a label maker, and I make it for my wife too. So basically, it says eating or dining,
Yeah.
and then this one says, and the other one, it says everything else. So
Hmm.
you don't have to think about it. Everything else other than dining, and use this card.
How many cards do you alone have?
Across the 4 or 5 brands, probably about 35
Oh
cards.
my.
Ooh.
Now I have to justify it. Now I would say maybe 10 of them are no annual fee, and the other
Hmm.
20 probably have an annual fee.
Okay.
So I have to justify it. This is how I justify it. If it is a airline card, I'm keeping it for the free bag. Uh,
Okay.
so even though I fly American primarily, if I'm flying Delta, I don't have that benefit because I don't fly Delta. So I'll have the Delta card so I get a free bag. And remember, it's not just me, but whoever flying with me. So I fly with my daughter, who's 9 years old, and my wife. So if the three of us are flying, that's 35 savings each. That's $105 right there. So one flight a year on Delta, one way pays for it, and way back they're going to charge me another 100. So just a round trip, it pays for itself. So if I fly at least Delta round trip at least once a year, holding on the card makes sense for me already just for that alone. And
Wow.
so that's how I justify it because I'm going to pay for it anyway. Now, if I have a hotel card, however, other than by the way, every time you sign up, you get a sign up bonus. But
Hmm.
remember, the banks don't like you getting cards and then canceling it. See, that's called churning, and then I don't really do that. I try to be a good member because
Mhm.
if they can pull up the report, and they see that you open cards and only keep them for a year. Eventually, they're gonna stop giving you cards because they go,
Hmm.
I don't think this is a good risk. So you open them up, and then you have to now you can get the great thing about Amex, maybe not the greatest thing, but with Amex, um, you actually once you get into their ecosystem, once you get a card with them, they only do soft pulls. They never pull
Yes.
your credit again. I mean,
I know. I heard that. And I was like, so I am Club MX now? Like I'm in the club?
yeah.
Yeah.
So that means that's why you get approved so quickly. Like when you apply on the Amex, once you're in, they like tell you like that. Like
Yeah,
you're just
they
like
do.
you don't. There's no like waiting. We will see. It's like
We
yes
will
or
see.
no. It's like either
Yeah.
yes or no. Usually, most of the time, it's a yes.
So, out of the 35 cards that you have, which three credit cards do you use the most, and what do
Oh,
you use it
good
for?
question. Yeah.
So I finished. I didn't say about the hotel cards, but I keep the
Okay.
hotel cards for the free night.
Mm.
Okay.
So most of the hotel cards, like the IHG, the Marriott, the Hyatts, the Hiltons, they all come with a free night when you renew. So most of the renewal fees is like $95. So if you can find a hotel that is at least $95, it pays for itself. Usually, most of the time, I go try to find a hotel that's $200-300. So I
Mhm.
Nice.
make myself feel really good that I was smarter than $95. I paid $95 for this $300 room, and then I can make a TikTok out of it. That's how people do. Like, okay, but to answer your question, which cards I really like, I think the three. If I actually had to choose out of my card, I'm like, I would have one card that gets me in a lounge that has all the premium benefits, and in that case, it would be the Amex Platinum, whether it be the business or personal. So that would be one. The second one I would probably choose is a Chase Sapphire Reserve.
Okay.
That is another premium card, top levels. Well, and you may say, oh, they aren't they the same or don't they overlap? Yeah, they do, but they serve different purpose. I'll explain in a second. But that would be like my food and my travel because they had the biggest definition for travel and for food. So I would choose that. So I feel like that's more versatile than the Amex Gold if I had to choose. So I would take one Amex Platinum, one for food and travel, and then one more for everything else. And that could be anything. That could be City Double Cash. That could be Venture X. I don't really care on that one. It could be Venture X. Actually, I may pick Venture X out of this because I already have one card that's earning me Amex points. So I would get one that earned me Amex, one that earned me Chase, and one that earned me Capital One.
As far as let's talk about the travel portals.
Yeah.
So, do you find it that it's the pricing in the portal is similar to if you were to book direct with American or if you were to book through a third party on Orbitz or something with packages as well, or just flights itself, rental cars, etc.?
That's an interesting question you bring up. Chase or JP Morgan, their parent company, has invested a lot in travel. In fact, they just made an announcement recently that they're going to have a dedicated like Chase travel portal. It's going to be chasetravel.com. Pay attention. Next couple months, you're going to start hearing about this. They want to double down on travel. They want people to go through their travel portal. They want them to go through them. Keep in mind, they are an online travel agency, just like an Expedia, just like all these other Trivago and Agoda and Priceline. And so they recently ended their relationship with Expedia. No more. They bought out old provider they used to have, which is called CX Connection, CX Loyalty Connections, CX Loyalty. I'm sorry, CX Loyalty, and they were going to be booking stuff like the way Amex does, like the way Amex has FHR, the way that Amex has it. I think they're going to try to follow that model and try to be. They said that during the pandemic they did over 2.2 million transactions during this past year. And so, is it popular? Yes. Is it simple? I think this is one of the things I really feel that Chase does really well. Is they brought the whole concept of hybrid. They give people more options than probably everyone else, more than Amex, because I think they just make it easy. And I think this is really where I think if I am new to travel and I'm new to credit card points and miles, to me, there's a couple ways you can take the value out. You can either cash out for cash. That's one way to do it. It's not the best way, but that's one way to do it, which is why I think cashback is so prevalent out there in the marketplace. But if you understand a little bit on travel, then you can also transfer it to a partner, and they all have exclusive partners. Like Chase has 3 hotel brands: Marriott, IHG, and Hyatt. Whereas American Express has 3, but it's Choice, which is kind of more downscale. And then they have Hilton, and they also have Marriott. Uh, but they have more, Amex has more transfer partners. So for me, many times Amex is great for the advanced or more advanced traveler because they have to understand about alliances and transferring to partners. Whereas Chase doesn't says, you don't need to worry about that. We have a portal. And if you use our portal, you could buy a cash ticket. And that means you can choose any ticket because this is the thing. Like I spend half my time buying cash tickets and the other half of the time doing points tickets. So I'm not one of these people like, oh, everything is points. Like I'm not. I'm like, I don't know. There's some people who are like, I only book points. I never pay. I'm like, that's not the best way to do it, because sometimes if the cash rate is low, you want to pick the cash rate. And then save your points for the ones when it's expensive, So I don't believe that you should always use points, and that's I think a big misconception is that points people only use points. We pay cash all the time if it makes sense. If there's a discount business, I'll pay a discount business. less expensive than transferring. And so that's one of the reasons why you want to keep Amex points and Chase. But going back to your question, is it less expensive in the Chase portal? It should be.
Mm.
It's not always.
Yeah.
And so I always go to Google Flights first, or if you know how to
Mm-hmm.
use ITA Matrix, you can. For the more advanced old school users, you go use, but if you want to use Google Flights, you can.
Yep.
And then you go and look at the Chase portal and go, it doesn't match up.
Right.
And so sometimes it doesn't match up, and it could be different reasons. Their provider got different rates
Mm-hmm.
than what you would get if you book directly. Keep in mind, if you book directly, there's still an advantage. When you book directly
Yeah.
through the through the airline, when there's a cancellation, which we all know that there's a tons of them this past 2 years, flight countries get changed, requirements and things like that. So with those type of things, it's a lot easier when you book directly than if you go through the portal. So,
Mm-hmm.
but Chase realized that, so they've made changes to kind of draw you to them. So right now, if you are booking, if you have the Chase Sapphire Reserve, you get 3 points, three points for every dollar if you book it with, let's say, American directly.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go through their portal, you get 5 times the points. So you actually get 2 times more
Oh,
points of
wow.
Chase if you book through their portal. So you have to kind of take in consideration now, going, is 2 points per dollar worth it for me to take the risk of so they
Higher
make it
price.
kind of interesting now. So if you're going, I'm willing to take the risk, I'll earn more in points. Not every flight I'm going to take is going to cancel. Maybe let's say 1 out of 7 or 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 3, whatever the case may be. You're going to kind of take a risk there, but they're offering you more points. Now, when we look at hotels, they even up the ante on hotels and rental cars. If you have the Chase Sapphire Reserve, they're giving you 10 times the points. So if I book the hotel directly, it's 3 times the points. But if I go through their portal, they're giving me 10 times.
Oh my
So
God.
I'm not talking about making a redemption. I'm just talking about buying tickets. If you're making that regular tip. So now if I'm spending $1,000 at 10 times on a hotel,
Mm-hmm.
that's like 10,000 points of Chase Ultimate Rewards points, which I could use for the next trip if I want to. So I think they have really increased the value point. And Capital One, by the way, has matched that. So if you have the Venture X, it's 5 times for airfare and 10
Mm-hmm.
times for hotels and rental cars.
Yep. And everyone's renting cars nowadays, right? So, okay, that's interesting because Trizzy and I talk about this frequently in the past. Like, where, say, you're buying direct with the airline, you're getting 3 times the points, and the flight is 700. You're buying through the Chase portal, and it's 1,000, but you're getting 5 times the points. Like, Trizzy and I, based on past experiences, would go directly with the airline because we get the instant gratification of not spending the extra $300 because we're known, or at least I'm known, I don't have any loyalty to any airlines, to no hotels, nothing for me, because I think I have that mindset of like, oh, my credit is still rebuilding. I'm just like, yes, I have the cards that gave me points, but I'm trying to be as cheap as possible here. So
By the way, I wouldn't recommend you pay extra for those points, because now you're paying for those extra points. So I would
right.
still book it directly, if the rate doesn't make sense. But let's say, for example, many times you'll see when you quote on Google Flights or any of these, they quote you basic economy. And if you don't choose basic economy and you now are choosing the full economy or whatever, premium and so forth, then you have to start to take a look. Maybe I should get the one through the portal, because sometimes the portal one does include. I've had it before where the one in the portal came with the bags, and if I booked it directly, they were showing me the rate, the one without the bags, and so that
Yeah,
sometimes comes into play too. So you have to kind of take a look on which airfare you end up picking.
absolutely. One thing I've also noticed with the MX portal recently, they give like secret deals. So it'll be like less, the price of it will be less than the amount of points that I have, if that makes sense. So I just still have like points left over or something like that. Like I found a flight from New Orleans back to LA for $88, and they're like, this is a secret deal only for MX members, like book it now. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. And it's like just random secret deals. And I don't know if it's based on my search history or like, I don't know how they get them.
Amex actually has special consolidator rates.
Okay.
There was
Huh.
actually a time. There was actually a time too where, even as a business traveler, if I booked directly with AA and I wanted to make a change, they would
Mhm.
charge me a change fee. The change fee would be like $200, and
Wow.
sometimes the flights were like $250. And I'm like, you're gonna charge me $200 change fee on a $250? Like, yes.
Mm,
But if I went through Amex, they had an agreement where they would waive one change fee. I was like, I'm booking with you guys every time from now on,
yeah.
even as a business traveler. So um, there's a lot of little nuances between airlines and things like that. That's why I decided this year I was going to work on a hotel course, and I was like, oh, I'm going to talk about something that nobody ever talks about, which is kind of how to do hotel secrets and hacks and things like that. And
Love it.
Okay.
That's
What?
amazing.
Okay. Expand a little bit more on that. What do you mean hotel secrets and hacks? Like as far as booking them, right?
everything
Okay.
from how to get status to how to get free upgrades, breakfast, how to
Ooh.
use um, this is one of the things I cover. It's an 8 hour course that I cover, and I break it up into four sessions with 2 hours each on Zoom. And what I do is I cover, first of all, the understanding about a hotel. Like, for example, a hotel that you stay at and the hotel program that they're a part of are two different entities. They're not the same. People think they are, and so sometimes they put a lot of too much effort into it. I think they have to look at and understand that those are two different things. And by understanding they're two different things, then you really understand how to take advantage of the program. Because one of the things I teach is building a relationship with the hotel property itself on the ground. And if you do have a service failure when it does happen, to deal with it with the property
Mm-hmm.
before you elevate it to the program. Because one of the things that I believe is that if you have a problem at the property, you want to deal with it while you're still there. Once you check out, once you leave, there's only so many things they can do for you. You've limited the amount of things they
Yeah.
can do to recover. So one of the things I know a lot of people do not feel comfortable when they're at a hotel to kind of complain, but I don't
Right.
like to call it complaint. I like to say give them feedback. But you want to give feedback to the right person. If you don't give feedback to the right person, nothing will be done.
Right.
And I've taught my students and people who I've worked with, um, if there's sometimes there's service recovery, they'll actually get and they'll do points booking. Sometimes they'll get more points than the points that they paid for that night. It sounds weird,
Wow.
but it's possible to do. And but it once again, it's one of those things and things that I kind of cover. I can't really publicly talk about it in some of these
Yeah. No,
things,
that's
but
fine.
because there's a nuance to it, I need to kind of walk them through those
Yeah.
type of things. But those are things that I help people understand, and I make them basically a better hotel guest. Number one. And
Oh,
I
that's good.
make sure, number two, that you understand the system. And it also makes
That's
sure
really
that
good.
ensures that you have a better experience from start to finish, as opposed to leaving with a bad taste in your mouth. And now you're going, let me go complain on TripAdvisor about this bad hotel.
Yep.
Yeah.
Get it fixed right there, and then you'll have a better experience.
Good for you. We need that, especially on a topic that can be considered complex. Even as many amazing points and miles people as I follow in your niche, it's I still repeatedly listen to it because I'm like, one, everyone has different information. Like you could learn something new. Two, it takes a lot for me to understand. I'm like, I got to pound it into my head to finally understand it. You know what I mean? Like it's the repetition for me.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I did the course. I just felt like I'm not going to be able to teach. Like for example, if you don't know the difference between a Le Meridian and a Hyatt place, then how do you know what is a good deal? Like
Yeah.
you got to understand what is a
Yeah.
budget versus what's mid scale, upscale, boutique, luxury. And then one of the things I'm going to share is that if you really want to take advantage of it, you should at least be upper upscale and higher. What
Mm-hmm.
happens a lot of time when you're on based on cash, you tend to go budget and lower, and then when the things go wrong, there's not much that they can do because it's in that
Yeah.
category. So when you get a good deal, it's better to get a good deal in the upper and the luxury side because their expectation of what they're going to deliver is higher, and you're going to end up winning more. And Points and Miles gives you a chance to do properties you would never ever do with cash because, I think nowadays, I'll probably spend like 200, 300 max on a room, which is I would probably never have done before, but points and miles kind of pushed me into that direction. But once
Mm-hmm.
I did, I realized I could use points and miles to replace it and use points rather than have to use cash if I needed to. But the experience is so much better. The sheets are cleaner and the view is much better.
It is true. It's like you get what you pay for, right? It applies a lot.
You do.
Ben, thank you so much for all the information. We are going to jump into the T2A Q2A, which is the Ticket to Anywhere Quick to Answer segment. Very similar to Rapid Fire. We have 4 questions for you.
All right.
First one is, what else are you besides a traveler and a points person?
So I am, other than insurance that we talked about earlier, I love food. My dad opened one of the very first Thai restaurants in Los Angeles.
What?
Ooh, wait,
Wait,
you
is it
gotta
still
let us
around?
know.
Yeah. We're
It's
like,
still around for
hello.
50 years. It's probably the oldest Thai restaurant in the United States.
Is it in Thai Town?
It is, of course. My dad was a
What?
pioneer.
You need to tell us about this because we are one, we're gonna go. Two,
Yeah.
we need to tell the Ticket to Anywhere family about it.
And
So
Thai food is a food that we could eat every day.
Oh yes.
that's great. So my dad opened up in 1972 when people did not know what Thai food was. Everything was all about Chinese food. So when he called it in Thai, it was written in Thai. It was called lot det. Lot det means it tastes good. That's what it really translates to. He knew that Thai food wasn't gonna sell, so because they didn't know what it was, and he was like literally the first generation that came here when they were students. So at the time when he
Wow.
opened up, he called it Lee's because that was my grandmother's last name. It wasn't even our last. Our last name is Komenko. My grandmother's last name Lee because that's Chinese. Lee's Thai Chinese food. And the funny thing, every other Thai restaurant that opened in the 70s and early 80s, every one of them were Thai Chinese food. But if you go over there, look, it's on the corner of Hollywood and Gramercy. They're closed on Wednesday, by the way. They're known for their duck noodle soup. In front of the logos are duck. So they have like a soy braised duck. My grandmother, last name Lee. She actually had a great. So it's the Chinese part of the Thai menu where you think of street food when you think of like boat noodle soup, duck noodle soup, ham hock. But don't go there looking for like pad thai. Well, you could order pad thai, but I would say if you go there, try to order like the duck over rice or their boat noodle soup. Everyone in the Thai community who's ever been here all knows my dad restaurant. It's like a classic. It's like the original restaurant of LA.
That's so cool. So how do you spell that?
Rodded, and it's cash only too. It's still like
Cash
back in
only.
the 70s.
No, I love it. I love those feels. All right, we about to go, but not tomorrow because that's a
I know
Wednesday.
because it's close. That's so exciting. Ben, do you have any rituals or routines when you get to a new place, when you land in a new city? What's the first things you do?
I usually try to find a local spot to go eat at. That's usually one of my first things I typically do is where I'm going to eat. In fact, I probably choose my locations when I travel for leisure. Like I'm not one of these people. I know there's some people who want to travel 100 countries. I'm not that person. And so I usually go to places that I think I'm going to love their food. And so I'm a food tourist. And so one of the first things I look at is where I'm going to be able to go and eat, and that kind of helps set my itinerary where I'm going to stay at or where I'm going, and so I kind of evolve around that when I go
Yep,
somewhere.
That's awesome.
that's
Cool,
great.
cool. All right, what items do you absolutely need with you on your travels?
So I believe the IMAS is really good. One hack, by the way, in the hotel room, especially if you don't have blackout curtains when you're trying to sleep, is to use the room hanger. Use the I don't know if anyone's ever used a room hanger. You know the tab
Mm-hmm.
they have on the
Hmm.
for the pants. You could use those tabs and put on the curtains to clean so the curtains sometimes they don't close all the way. You could use that. But if you don't have that, or if you don't want to use that, I just carry um, eye mask with me because the eye mask really helps you on the plane too. I think one reason why
Mm-hmm.
people do not sleep on the plane is light. So I carry that with me, and the other one I carry with me is duct tape because I want to put
Right.
that iPad on there.
Okay, last question, Ben. What is your next trip with points and without points?
My next trip that I'm taking is actually to Scottsdale. One of the best Hyatt properties in the West Coast is actually the Hyatt Regency Gainey Ranch.
Love it.
It has
Mm-hmm.
20 pools and it has a 3-story slide. And it even has a beach with the sand, like it has a sand pool,
Ah,
like they
Nice.
literally filled up the pool with sand so that the kids could like go in
I
but they
love
even have
Yeah.
that.
gondola. Oh, they're one of the only few other than Las Vegas. You know, people go to the Venetian, so they do the gondola ride and
Mm-hmm.
everything. Do you know that they have that the Gainey Ranch Scottsdale? They actually have a gondola guy with
Wow.
Oh,
and sings opera for you, And if
Oh
you go
my
eat at the
God.
Italian restaurant, they give you the pass, and then you can go and it's great. So
That's
it's cool.
amazing.
That is my next points thing, and I'm probably planning to go back to Thailand again at the end of the
Love
year.
it.
I think November, December, January is the best time of the year to go to Thailand.
Yes.
The weather is not too
Mm-hmm.
hot.
Well, Ben, man, this has been such a fun episode.
Yes.
Learning everything from you, because this is what I need for sure to decide on my next travel card. Before we hang up, where can people find you all over the socials, and if you have any blogs as well?
Yeah, so I am working on my website right now. It's a pain. I pushed away from doing a website for a long time, but I guess I'm going to do it this year. So I'm working on it right now. It will be bensbigdeal.com. But in the meantime, you can find me on Instagram under Ben's Big Deals. I also have a TikTok account under Ben's Big Deal and a Facebook group, Ben's Big Deal, as well. So all the different social, you can find me there. And I also on the Clubhouse regularly. I've been spending a lot of time there doing audio, so not video, but audio, lots of them regularly on a Thursday night, 6 p.m. Pacific. And we usually have people from all around the points world, like Zach Griff, who is a aviation for TPG for the Points guy. I've had Spencer Howard from Straight to the Points. So a lot of folks from the Points and Miles world. Had Tiffany Funk from 1 Mile at a Time and Point.me. So I usually interview them and love to, kind of pick on what are the hottest things right now that's happening in the world of travel, points and miles.
That's amazing.
Great.
Appreciate it, Ben. Thank you
Thank
so
you very
much.
much.
Yep.
I
Thank you,
appreciate your time.
Ben. Take care.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Ticket to Anywhere podcast. Don't forget to connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. If you love travel as much as we do, hit subscribe on our YouTube channel, as well as anywhere you listen to podcasts such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Pocket Casts. Thank you all for your support so far. When you have the time, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We love to hear your thoughts and feedback, and it'll help others come across our episodes and hopefully be inspired to travel and adventure anywhere.